All right, good morning. Well, no kayak today. I'm out here in the shop. As you can see at this table, my buddy from work gave me. It's really nice. It's an antique table. But as you can see, the top is kind of warped on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to steam it, and we're going to try to bring it back to its level self. Hopefully we can do that. I know the light's kind of bad here. Let me take a straight edge and put on it. So as you can see, we got light underneath the straight edge. So there is definitely a warp to it. So we're gonna take the top off, lay it out here, wet it down for about 45 minutes or so, and then apply some steam to it. Then clamp it down and see if we can straighten it out a bit. Stand by and we'll see what happens. So I have it laid out here. Took the top off. I turned it, I spun it around until I found where I had the most warpage. As you see, it wobbles pretty good. All right, so I think that's the spot we're going to work with. All right, these towels are wet. They're not sopping, dripping wet, but they're wet. I'm going to make a spray bottle, or I'll squirt a little bit of water on them every once in a while. I let them set like that for like 45 minutes, and then I'll start applying. I'll clamp it and start applying steam to it, and we'll see how well we can straighten it out. You can overdo this, so you have to be careful and not go overboard with it. So to kind of add a little bit of water here to it. Like I said, I don't want it sopping wet, but I do want it to wet it down a little bit here. All right, give it a touch. Yeah, that's good. All right. Perfect. Give it a little bit more time. Been 45 minutes. I stole my wife's iron. Actually, it's our iron because I iron too sometimes. I want to get as much steam on here as possible. I have this at the highest setting. I don't want to go crazy either, but I do want to get it good and steamy. This will get that moisture down in the wood. Up here, you can see the vapor coming off of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of blocks here like this and clamp down on those to try to provide some lateral some lateral pressure on it also. I think I have just enough clamps. All right, we'll let that sit a while. And we'll see what happens. I've taken the cross pieces off, and I'm going to give myself more area to steam, and that way I've got the corners clamped down. That way I can work more steam into the wood. Pretty thick piece. What I may have to do, I'm hoping that I may have to sand down this bottom piece to get more moisture into the wood if this doesn't work. This is purely an experiment. They say it works. I don't know. The reason I'm doing it is because this around the edge is laminated, and I don't want to ruin that laminate. I can't mill it down. I can't put it on and use my router jig to mill it down without making it too thin. So we're gonna hope that this works. You see, with the clamps off of it, or on it still, it's bowed the other direction a little bit. See that? So when it dries and I release the clamps, that's pretty neat though. Look at that. Remember it was bowed in the middle? Now it's bowed in the other direction. Yeah. Yeah. So got a little light under there. So when I remove the clamps, hopefully it'll come out straight. We'll see what happens. But I'm pretty impressed with that. All right, let's do a moisture content test here. Got my gauge. Okay, it's reading about 17.2. Here, I'll put it again. All right, about 16.9. We'll check back later and see if the moisture drops any. All right, a few more hours have passed by, and let's see what our moisture content's down to. So it's down to 14.7. All right, so it keeps dropping. I think when it gets down to probably around 11, maybe, I'll go ahead and unclamp it, and we'll see if it moves any. Hopefully it'll stay pretty close to flat. I mean, I know it's not going to be perfect, but we'll just make it acceptable. All right, well, we'll wait probably later tonight or tomorrow morning. Okay, this is 24 hours later, and let's check the humidity. Humidity is at, whoops, let me do it again. So humidity is at 13.5, so it's dropped almost 1% since yesterday. So that's 24 hours. I'll let it set at least another day, probably, maybe 2, and then we'll see how it turns out. Okay, let's see. It's been 48 hours. We'll do a test here. Okay, 12.4. I'll give it another day, see if it comes down anymore. But since the ambient humidity here today, yesterday it was 55%, today it's 61%. So that might be as bad as good as it gets. I'm thinking that that's about as good as it gets, but I'll give it one more day, just in case. All right, today's the moment of truth. We're gonna check. All right, so I'm at 13%. And it's a little humid out today, so I say that that's about as low it's gonna get sitting in my garage. So it's time to unclamp it and see what we got. So it's not warped per se now. It's got a concave in the middle, which is probably, see, so it doesn't wobble like it did before, but has a bit of a concave. The problem is that this table is veneer, and I could cut it. So you can see the veneer. You can see the veneer right here. So I could cut it and rip it 3 times and run it through a planer, or a joiner, excuse me, then a planer, if it was a normal wood. But since it's veneer, I really can't do that without taking it down too far past the veneer. So honestly, for what I'm going to use this for, since it's not wobbly anymore, I mean, it's not like it was. It just has a concave to it. And it's really, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it'll be acceptable. I'm going to shine it up. I don't want to damage it and take a risk of making it worse, since it is a veneer. Later on, if it becomes an issue, we'll just cut it and rip it, and you can see the joint right here. Right here's the joint. I could rip it along the joint and then redo it, but man, it's too pretty to think about right now doing. I'd probably ruin the veneer on it. All right, well, let's polish it up and put it in place and see what it looks like here. All right, well, sometimes you have to compromise. I mean, it's not the straightest in the world. It didn't really do a whole lot, the steam, but it's cleaned up. It looks nice. And like I said, we're not going to be putting drinks or anything on it. It's going to be basically for decoration. Put a few pictures on it. And I'd rather not damage it anymore. I mean, I could rip it and it would change the whole table. And it's an antique, so yeah, I'd rather not do it. We'll see what it looks like when it's put in place. And if my wife likes it, then we'll keep it like that. That's the important part, right? All right, well, here we are. It's all in place, Pasquale approved. You like it, Pasquale? Huh? You like it? What do you think? Think it's all right? Yep, that's all. All right, yeah, it looks pretty good. It matches up perfect. And it even matches the console table that I built for our TV and my desk. So the color is perfect. It's a good addition to our little corner here. Great. Yeah, so you really can't tell that there's a slight bow in the middle. At least it's not warped like it was before. It was warped. It's that part I think was the most important part. The rest of it you can't really tell at all, and you'd have to really look at it, especially with all the pictures and everything on it. It would do more harm to the table, cutting it, ripping it, and then joining it and putting it through the planer. You would never salvage the veneer that way. Great. Well, I'm glad you liked the video. I hope you liked the video. Please click subscribe and ring the bell below, right down there, and so that you can be notified when I have new videos.